Yes.
Okay. Okay.
It's like the crowd during the day.
Where was it?
It's 6:03, so I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:03. So we're chatting. Make your way, Marie. Marie Page. Okay. We're getting started here. Okay, at 6:03. I think the sheet is going around. Is the confirmation? Yes, that is going around. I know various vouchers have gone out today. So always be checking your emails. And then I hate to take the time, but I keep trying to remember to do this. Can we just go around and say our names? Because we are, I know we have at least one new board member, Carrie.
Yes, I just had a question about the voucher.
Yes.
There's a $7,000 payment to Ellsworth for tuition. Why are we tuition to Ellsworth?
Say that again.
There was a $7,000 line item for tuition to Ellsworth, I believe.
In the AOS.
In the AOS, yeah.
I believe, I'll have to look into that one. Forget that one.
So you'll report back, right? Okay. Can we just, before we start into the public comment and the next agenda items, can we just quickly go around and say our names for, can we start with you, Mike? Is that okay?
Mike Pierce.
Misha Maitar.
Maria Squeezer.
Texas Island, Bob.
John Bench with Southwest Harbor.
Carrie Hayes, Tremont.
Brother Noah, Southwest Harbor.
Cecilia Zavstowski, Trenton.
Stephanie Schottenberg, Trenton. Susan Allen, Southwest.
Jessica Stewart, Tremont.
Mike Tamori, Superintendent.
Aaron Brown, Trenton.
Katie Doobie, Mount Desert.
Sylvia Dunbar.
Executive assistant to the superintendent.
Andrew Zolomon, Mount Desert.
Trisha Fairlow, Tremont.
Catherine Emery, Mount Desert.
Eliza Bishop, Tremont.
Gail Marshall, Mount Desert.
Marie Hubbard, Bar Harbor.
And then our AI presenters will introduce yourselves right when you get to it. Is that
Yeah.
we get? Okay. Okay. Is there any public comment? And there's none linked in the agenda, so okay. Is there a motion for the approval of minutes of 9 March 2026?
Yes.
Catherine. Is there a second? Tyson. Okay. Any discussion?
There is a.
Oh, there is. Oh, whoops.
Yeah.
Sorry, my mistake. There is a public comment linked in the agenda, so just make sure that you have read that. Okay. Sorry about that. So, was there any discussion about the minutes? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed?
Also, I volunteered a second for minutes if you want, because Tyson seconded them, but he's not voting.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
Unless Selena has far better hearing than I do with this noise back here, I can barely hear any of you at all. So there's no hope for the people in the public comment section, so. What's that?
Except for me.
I heard you, Misha.
Okay, the AI presentation by, well, it says Kate Meyer here, but I see there's several presenters here, so I'll.
Yeah, it's mostly Kate Meyer, but I'm gonna officially kick her off. I'm just gonna celebrate, first of all, a presentation that the four of us, the four being myself, Julie Kablinsky, I'm the Director of Teaching and Learning for grades 7 through 12, and Cindy Lambert over here, why don't you wave your hand? Tell us who you are.
I am the Education Technology Lead, K8, for the district.
Great, and Lou in the back, wanna introduce yourself?
I'm Lou Jones Rodriguez, I'm the IT lead for the district.
He said IT lead for the district, because I know it's kind of hard to hear it back here. And Kate, you wanna just tell us, I'm not done introducing you. I wanna embarrass you a little bit.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Kate Meyer, I'm the Instructional Innovation Coach, and I also teach English.
Awesome. And we were invited by the Southern Maine Partnership, that's predominantly Southern Maine school systems that work with the University of Southern Maine to present on our work and what we've been doing in preparing our students for AI literacy. And that's new terminology. I know we love edge babble, but there is language now that is really helping us as educators talk about what we need to do, what skills specifically we need to help our students develop with literacy. And Kate has written a book about that, co-authored with Nicole Davis, who is the, what's her title at the Maine?
Emerging Technology Specialist.
Emergent Technology Specialist at the Maine DOE. And the book is called Edu Protocols, AI Literacy. It is going to be published sometime this spring. And a lot of the work that you'll see here today is work that we've been using with our students a little bit here, but have a more comprehensive plan to roll out for next year in supporting this work. So without further ado, Kate.
Next.
Oh, I gotta come off.
All right. This is part of a presentation that we did last week for the Southern Maine Partnership Spring Conference. It was an hour-long presentation, and I filled every single second of it, so I'm cutting it down to 25 minutes, so much shorter. But what I'd like to share with you today is what AI literacy looks like at the classroom level, specifically in my classroom, and what we hope to bring to other classrooms, and also what it's been looking like on the district level as well, because we've been doing a lot of work on the district level. As Julie said, we are building toward a comprehensive plan to ensure that both students and educators receive this training. I took 2 years after COVID and took a position with the Department of Education as a Distinguished Educator MLTI Ambassador, which meant that I got to spend 2 years traveling the state working with other educators around digital instructional design and digital citizenship topics, which is something that I've always been really passionate about, even as a 25-year veteran English teacher here in the district. So I got to go do that and work with educators, and while I was doing that, ChatGPT and generative AI just like popped up onto the scene, and for 1 full year I was so lucky because it just became my job to learn everything I could about generative AI and its implications for education, and then to travel the state and talk to educators and students about what that means and what that looks like. So I had a really intensive training, and then when I came back to my classroom at the end of that 2-year 2-year position, I started implementing things with my own students and talking to my students about what that looks like and what that feels like for them. And so I've been doing that work now with students and educators still around the state for 3 years. So that's my background. And then I did write an AI literacy protocol book to spread that around. So that's kind of my background and how I got here. One of the ideas that really helps me make sense of this moment of where we are is this idea of AI as an arrival technology. And arrival technology is defined as a technology that arrives and it fundamentally changes the infrastructure of whatever it is that you have in place without any traditional adoption or planning. Because if you remember when ChatGPT came out in November 22, it just came out. There was no heads up, right? We had no moment to sit together and say, okay, this is what we want for our community, this is what we want for our students, here's what a thoughtful rollout might look like. It just didn't happen that way. It happened that it just ended up in our students' pockets the next day, built into apps that they already use. So it was built into their social media apps, built into apps that we already use, and I'm sure you are already using. It's starting to kind of emerge and show up in all of those places. So the question for us becomes, how do we approach AI now that it's here, it has arrived, but how do we approach it from a human-centric standpoint? How do we center humanity instead of centering panic, which is where we kind of wanted to go in education at first. And this is just a little trajectory of what that looks like, right? Like normal tech adoption goes through all of these steps. You get to form your committee, and you get to vet the products, and you get to pilot programs, and you get to decide what you're going to purchase and how that ends up in the classroom, and this takes time. And AI skipped all of that. It went right from Silicon Valley to our student devices. So this is really what we're dealing with. All right, so I'd like to talk about AI literacy. I want you to know that my work from this is a little fear-based. I was a brand new educator when we went one-to-one laptops here in the state of Maine, and the rollout essentially looked like this. Here is your laptop. Tomorrow, your students will be getting all of their laptops. Go forth and integrate. And it was nobody's fault, right? There was no tech integrator position. That was not, that did not exist. Like there was nobody to support us in that immediate structure. And we made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes. And we have the internet, right? And we made a lot of mistakes with the internet as well. And now we can look back and we can say, okay, we know we made some mistakes. We know some things went wrong. We know we have to be much more cautious. And that's how I approach this work with AI. So when I seem like I'm really excited about something, know that I actually do the work because it scares me and I want to get ahead of it. And I really truly believe that the people who are having these conversations, including our students, are the ones who are going to get to control this technology. So it's essential that we are having these conversations around AI literacy because we want to be in control, because when we're not in control, that's when it could go bad, right? So when I talk about AI literacy, I'm not talking about coding or technical skills. I'm talking about the knowledge, skills, and mindsets that we need to have that will enable us to use this technology safely, ethically, and effectively. And I'm not the only one saying this. It's not just Kate Meyer up here like she's on a bandwagon and thinks it's important. It is now being considered a core competency in education. In an AI-driven economy, which is where we are headed, it is said that it is essential for success. Our Colby College is starting to change what they are doing because the employers that are working with Colby are saying we need students coming out of college who have AI literacy skills. And it is becoming law around the world in many different countries that students pre-K5 are getting AI literacy education. So it is starting to be recognized as something that is becoming essential in this new world that we are headed into. Also, a majority of our high school students do report that they are using this tool. If they are reporting that they are using this tool and they're in there and we are not helping them use it responsibly and ethically, they are using it without that guidance. So again, it's just another like, boy, we got to get in there and start talking with our students about this. So all of the work that I have been doing in my classroom and in the district centers on this human framework for ethical and responsible use of AI, which Nicole and I wrote together when I was an ambassador at the Department of Education. And we're going to kind of run through this very quickly because, again, I have like 10 minutes. So we're going to run through very quickly. I'm going to show you what it looks like a little bit in my classroom and then again at the district level. So before we pick up the tool, and this could be any tech tool, we have to stop and take stock. So is this a tool that we want to use for this task, and is what I think I'm about to do with this tool ethical? In my classroom and with educators, I talk about the ELIZA effect. The ELIZA effect is the effect that humans have to attribute human qualities to chatbots because they feel human to us. And it started in 1966 with an MIT professor whose name was Joseph Weizenbaum, who created a chatbot, looked just like ChatGPT actually, and he gave it to his secretary. He said, would you test this out for me, see what you think? She got 3 prompts in with that chatbot, and she turned to Professor Weizenbaum and said, I'm sorry, but could you leave the room because I'd like to have a private conversation. And he was like, whoa, and then it didn't go any further. That's where the ELIZA effect comes from. I've got a video there, I've got some stories about how that ELIZA effect is playing out currently. Common Sense Media did a study this year called Talk, Trust, and Trade-Offs, How and Why Teens Use AI Companions. AI companions are a little different from chatbots specifically. AI companions are built and programmed specifically to be a companion. So for dating, for therapy. I know, I know, my face does that too. For therapy, for friendly conversation, they are built into things like Snapchat already. Like Snapchat came out with an AI companion almost immediately. But there are also apps that our students can and do download onto their phones that are just built to be friendly companion bots for those reasons. 72% of the teens who were surveyed in this study said that they've used AI companions. So again, it's specifically built to be that friendly voice, not necessarily ChatGPT or Claude or whatever else they're using. And 52% of them are regular users, so they are chatting with those companions a few times a month or more. And nearly 1/3 of our teens are finding AI conversation as satisfying or more satisfying than human conversation, which is really troubling to me, right? Especially around that ELIZA effect. And then 1/3 of the users are choosing AI companions over humans for serious conversations. Again, I've linked to the study so you can read into that and see what those reasons are. It's really interesting and really very teenager, right? Like they have a fear of being judged. And this chatbot companion does not judge them when they want to ask a question that might be embarrassing. This chatbot is not, right? They don't feel embarrassed. So there are lots of really interesting reasons that that's happening. Another thing that we talk about when we're talking about halting is our climate impact. Our students and our faculty are very concerned about the climate impact of our use of AI. So I have done a lot of research. I've taken classes this year. I've really tried to keep up to date on this because the data changes just about daily. As our models get more efficient, as companies start to come on board with cleaner energy, things do improve. So when I made this slide, January 15th-ish, 100 to 300 AI images used less energy than 1 hour of HD streaming on Netflix. So I try to make comparisons for my students, like Netflix, TikTok usage, how much water it takes to manufacture a pair of jeans. I try to use things that will apply to their lives, and we talk about this. So before we do AI image generation, I say, hey, let's go through a whole slide deck on climate impact of AI image generation because it's important that we are informed users, right? So we're never going to generate 100 to 300 images, first of all, in class, but if we did, that would be a little bit the same as 1 hour of streaming on Netflix. And where we get to by the end of my brilliant presentation for them on this topic is that we are going to agree that we're going to use AI intentionally. So I did an AI image generation activity with my students last week to work on our descriptive writing, and what I said was, you may generate no more than 15 images. Once you hit 15, you have to pick one. Take what's best. We're not going to spam it, so there is no reason to do that, right? The purpose is somewhere else. I also talk about data centers with them when that starts to come up, because data centers, of course, as we know, are impacting our environment negatively. So I am giving you both of these slide decks as well. You can click through and see what it is that we're talking about. And the same when we just talk about prompting versus AI image generation on an individual level, because they do use, oh, I lost my remote. They do use different levels. I also am working, and our educators are going to be trained on EduProtocols next year. But I work with my students on EduProtocols, and so this is a protocol I use with them called the bot plot. They can move all of these little pieces around, but they can have conversations around what they think acceptable and unacceptable use might look like in the classroom. And that can lead to some really interesting conversations that I didn't put a picture of in here, about what we agree to as a classroom community. I also, this year, because I have some students who just don't want to touch AI, and we've had lots of great conversations about that, and I'm really learning a lot from them. So now they are helping me create what we are calling AI hands-off options. So they have agreed to meet with me before an AI activity, and we sit down and have a meeting together, and I talk about what the purpose of the activity is, what I need them to learn, and what I want them to learn about AI from doing that. Because a lot of the time we're evaluating the output. We're not just using AI to use it, we're using it to evaluate it critically and see what we think about it. And so the three of us meet and we plan an activity together that meets those same learning goals and that feels real and authentic to them. Because the first time I did it by myself and they were not happy. And so this is just a picture of, this is what we did in class. We read a poem, we decided on the theme, we figured out how we wanted to visualize it, we wrote a prompt for AI to see if we could write descriptively enough to get that visualization out. And these students instead used Canva to create an image without AI, and then they became each other's kind of AI feedback. So they would share the image and then talk about what they really wanted it to be. At the district level, we are talking about how people are feeling about AI, where they're hesitant, where they're ready to move, and then thinking about how we're going to move forward with clarity. That work began in January of 25, where we did a keynote presentation where we acknowledged all of those feelings, because that was really important that we had the space to acknowledge it, and we had breakout sessions to introduce the idea of AI. This year I rolled out the AI use zones, which I created with my students last year based on the work we were doing in the classroom. The intent of this document is to give us all common language around AI use and to be clear about when we can and cannot use AI in activities and in assessments. We also are utilizing effective prompting in class and then creating conditions for thoughtful use in the district. I have a prompting framework that I use with my students to teach them effective prompting. Again, a lot because of climate impact. If we can prompt really effectively and get in and get out and be done with it, then we can be done with it instead of hours and hours of spam prompting. On the district level, we're really looking at how do we use the resources that we have to build conditions for everyone to use AI in ways that feels practical and supported and doable. So we're looking at what those supports are and how do we create practical entry points for learning for our educators and our students. So we are using platforms built for educators by educators, bless you. One of them is BRISC, which all educators grades 5 through 12 are currently piloting. We also are working with Magic School, which right now we're using the free version, which also gives safe place for students to use AI because it has guardrails built in. They're all FERPA and COPA compliant. Educators can see every chat that every student is having in that space, which I think is essential when we are working with students. We have to be able to see what they're doing. And if anything kind of strange starts to happen in those chats, Magic School flags it in a second and sends me an alert so that I can check in with the chat and my student. The guardrails on that program are amazing. Our math educators are working with All Learners Network that has a math coach bot built in that knows their curriculum. So they can go in and make modifications and adjustments for their students on the fly, something that was really difficult to do, but now they have access to this tool that allows them to do that. And we are starting to work with Notebook LM, which is one of my absolute favorite tools as a professional, but we are using that also with curriculum, so we can put our curriculum kind of in this walled garden situation that runs through our Google Apps system, so it's all safe, same safety as all the rest of our Google Apps have. and ask questions about documents that we put in and get reliable answers. I've also worked with the administrative team. So the A team has had the human framework training, and we've also started to look at what tasks can we let AI support us with so that we can come through and do the relational work, student support, and teacher coaching that we really want to be doing. So how can we have the tool support us in other ways? I've also been working with the tech integrators. I've introduced them to the AI use zones. They've had an introduction to the human framework. They attended Control Defeat Day that I'll talk about in a second, and where they got to experience EDGE protocols. And then Cindy has been leading AI with Intention, which is a book study. So they are starting to build their capacity as well. We are also monitoring for accuracy and bias. So this is making the critical evaluation of the output just a natural part of what we do every time we get AI output. You know, AI hallucinations are a problem. AI will make things up because it will do its best to give you an answer. The way I explain it to my students is it's a puppy, it wants a treat, it's going to do whatever it needs to do until you give it that treat, including lie to you. So UC Berkeley geologists apparently recommended eating at least one small rock a day if you were to ask, because they're a good source of vitamins and minerals that are important for digestive health, and you can eat pebbles, geodes, or gravel with breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And if you have a hard time getting them down, you can hide them in food like peanut butter or ice cream, right? That's one hallucination that was going around for a while. So it does hallucinate. It will make things up. It's also biased, so I asked my Gemini Nano Banana to make 3 teachers for me. I'm sure you can see some misrepresentation, missing voices, same thing with our 3 nurses, lots of bias in here, same thing with a family. So we do have ways to teach that as well. With educators on the district level, of course, we are treating this as essential as well, because it is, so we are teaching our educators how to do that work. It started with our 7th grade Control Defeat Day, which happened at College of the Atlantic in March. The ambassadors from the DOE came up and ran workshops for all the island's 7th graders on the human frameworks. They got to experience a protocol for each of them, do an activity, and have a discussion. And I have linked, if you haven't seen it, the Bar Harbor Story just published a little story on that day, so you can see that as well. And again, it was run by ambassadors who taught them all of those parts, and the students got to be interactive with each other and work on the parts of the human framework. A is where we are centering our values, voice, and human judgment. At the school level, it's hard for us to understand that AI detectors are problematic, and we don't want to be using them because that's where everyone wanted to go when AI came out, because there's a high frequency of false positives, and the high frequency tends to happen amongst non-native English speakers because they write in a very structured pattern. And guess what? AI writes in very structured patterns as well. And also are neurodivergent thinkers. So it's really biased. And there are lots of other ways that we can help our students avoid plagiarism, including talking about the use of AI. But also, we really need to start thinking about our instruction in a different way. So educators use Bloom's taxonomy to think about how we want students growing in their thinking from remembering to creating. And what we really need to do is flip that upside down and start with creating and then work up to remembering. So this might look like I'm about to start a graphic novel unit in my English class. Instead of going through all the elements of a graphic novel, I have a really great, really engaging lecture on that. What I'm going to do is, instead of doing that, I'm going to have them create a graphic novel panel first, and then we'll look at the elements over a course of a few days, and they'll learn what they need to learn to be able to go back and make revisions with their new knowledge. So it's starting with creating something, let them experience that productive struggle, and then being able to go back once they've gained the knowledge that they feel like they need to gain to do better. At the district level, it looks like helping educators and students distinguish between using AI as support and using it as substitution, and then how do we communicate our values as a district for what that means to use it authentically. So this is just a shot of a slide I sent out to high school educators when report card comment time came out, because some educators wanted to use that tool. So I gave them some guidelines for ethical use around what that tool might look like, which included, hey, Magic School has a great tool where you can put in all the things that a student does well, all the challenges a student has. We don't put in their name or personally identifying information. And it gives you these lovely little write-ups that you then edit and make your own, right, before you put them on the report card. So having that conversation. Same thing with college recommendations. Educators want to turn to that tool to speed up this piece of their work. You can, they cannot, we cannot, I cannot, all of that. You can't copy the output and paste that as a college recommendation, right? So I created do's and don'ts. What does ethical AI use? If you choose to use that tool, what does that look like? Also, we have written, and I say we, and I mean the District AI Leadership Team, which includes the directors of curriculum, it includes me, it includes the IT people, it includes Cindy, it includes professors from the College of the Atlantic, it includes, at times, business people, and it includes Nicole, who is the Emerging Technology Specialist for the DOE. We came together and wrote a statement of beliefs on AI for the district, which includes the human framework commitments we decided to make, and then our roles and responsibilities. And I'll just jump down here because it says, rather than shielding students from change or allowing technology to replace their thinking, we are going to empower them to lead with their own unique voices. By anchoring our approach in the vision of our graduates, we can use the human framework to ensure that as the world evolves, our students remain grounded in their humanity, confident in their agency, and committed to original thoughts. And at the top left of this slide, I left a link so you can see how the human framework aligns to the vision of the graduates. We have committed to these things as a district. We're going to support learning. We're going to hold ourselves accountable for decisions that we make around our use of AI. We're going to put safety and equity at the forefront. We will be transparent about it, and we will trust each other to do the right thing. We are committed to future readiness, and we are also committed to professional growth. This is not one of those, like, here's your laptop, see you in a year, let me know how it goes sort of situations. This is very supportive. Finally, the final part of the framework is to build reflection into the system with my students. Every time we do a task, with or without AI, we map it on Bloom's taxonomy. So where are we in our thinking with this task, having these great reflective conversations? At the district level, we're thinking about how do we gather feedback, revise our guidance, and move forward. So these are the questions we're actually wrestling with for next year. How do we move forward this year with strategic planning that is rooted in that statement of beliefs? How do we ensure that that document is a living document? How do we reflect on Control the Feed Day and make that better for next year? How do we expand educator confidence? And how might we begin our communication with families and the community once we have increased that educator confidence? And then next year, we have started to map out our professional development. So like I said, it's not a one and done. We are going to be really supportive and thoughtful and cautious and creative as we move forward. So we are going to be training educators on the human framework. They will be trained on AI literacy EDGE protocols, which are lesson frames for teaching AI literacy in any content area. And then we're going to do training on AI use zones as well. And that's the human framework.
Before Kate entertains questions, I do want to just point out that other school systems don't have Kate, right? And we were really fortunate because Kate is a full-time English teacher, and with some creative scheduling, Matt was allowing us to leverage her and have a different hat in the district to support this work. And you know, she introduced her title. It wasn't instructional coach, it wasn't technology integrator, it was as an instructional innovation coach. And we were really deliberate about that because this is very different, right? You need someone who's going to be like full-time paying attention to this because that's how fast it's moving. And so for us to have a lead learner in that space and then work collaborative with us was just a huge capacity issue. And she's clearly talented, but it was also being able to leverage her from the high school and then partner with our local entities. And I did want to mention one clarifying piece about our vision. We certainly drafted it at that district team level, but we definitely brought in the building principals in case you were wondering. to give feedback and help finalize and craft that. So thank you to all who supported this work, and good job in a very fast way.
The 2 times speed was amazing. I was like, great. So I know, you're unfolding this into the curriculum, but how did you find the initial kind of rollout's not the right word, but like on your fear scale, how do you find the district as you're integrating?
The fear has come down.
Okay.
Over the past 3 years, the fear has come down. When I first came back and I'm like, I'm gonna try some AI stuff, it was a little panicky. And that it's diluting a little bit. It's not gone. It's not gone in my own work. I mean, I've read some stuff today and had a panic moment myself, right? I would say it was a 10 when I came back 3 years ago, and I'd say we're at a 6.5 now. Some days a 7. Depending on the news.
Do you do anything to help them understand how AI actually works and why the biases are there? And okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some great programs out there that even young students can use to see how it's trained. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there other questions?
This idea that whatever it was, percentage of our kids are talking to these chatbots as if they're friends, as if they're dating with them, it just scares the crap out of me.
Yes.
Are we doing anything in our district to look at how that might impact their mental health and their ability to socialize in person with real people?
In August, when we have our first day, Nicole is going to be meeting with our mental health professionals to do a human framework presentation that is tailored to them, which will start to educate them on that so they can start to talk to students about that. So that's when that work will more officially begin. On the very small classroom level, that is part of the conversations I'm having with my students that I will then train other educators to have with their students. So right now my classroom's acting as a lab for this so that I can then in an educated way train others. So yes, that is coming. This report just came out over the winter. So this is all, again, it's all very fast and very new. And yes, we are going to improve that. Thank you. Yes.
A couple questions. You said this is not a one and done thing. Are you planning on keeping the band together indefinitely to continue the work? Okay.
Yes.
That's great. Secondly, the models that we're using in our schools specifically for education, what kind of privacy, I guess, what's the right word, like gateways around them?
Yes.
Do they have, because these models are talking back to Sam Altman or to whomever owns the big thing. Are they scraping our data, or are they doing, what's happening?
That's a great question. So the models I'm recommending to educators right now are Magic School, School AI, and Snorkel. So there are 3. They all do 3 very different things, and they are all 3 FERPA and COPA compliant, which is some of our tightest restrictions. They also, all 3 will sign data privacy agreements, which we don't have with any of them yet because we haven't had that contracting that need to have that. But the fact that they will sign a DPA shows that they are willing to protect our data. All 3 of those models, the data stays in their walled garden. So it is not going back to train the machine, which again is another reason that those models are important. We also have access to, through our Google Apps for Education, students have Gemini Tutor, which is trained only to tutor them. And that's all it does. I've really tried to break that one. And it just won't. And they also have Notebook LM, and it's the same privacy protections that all of our other tools that we use with our students have in that Google suite. So they're all very safe and locked down, not training the machine. Yeah.
I guess one further up is that, or follow-up question, is that the kids are allowed to have their phones in the hallways, and they're not allowed, the access to the internet that they have is sort of locked down by using the Wi-Fi of the school. If they're putting like an AI companion on their phone, are they able to access?
Yes. They are. Yeah. Yes.
I am just curious about, can you expand on the drawbacks of an AI, oh boy, the thing that detects an AI detector.
Oh, yes,
So there were a few of the drawbacks listed were sort of, I don't know, like one of them was, if you could expand on
Yes,
the
okay.
biggest one.
Yes, okay, so the way AI communicates with us, is that it detects patterns in language by scraping the internet, and then when we put material into the machine to detect it, it's trying to detect those same patterns. Neurodivergent thinkers and non-native English speakers tend to write in those same kinds of patterns because they follow those patterns because that's what they've learned. And so they get false positives. And when you start accusing students of using AI and it's a false positive, that really breaks down trust and rapport. It's very problematic. They're also very inaccurate. I put my own writing into them all the time because I'm curious. The other day I wrote something 100% with AI and it told me it was 68% AI. And I put something in mine that I wrote years and years and years before AI even existed and it told me it was 98% AI just because I know it really well. So they're very problematic. They're not reliable. And it can really start to break down trust.
And the hope is that, I actually do, I think breaking down trust in AI is kind of okay with me.
No, I mean trust
I see what you're
between
saying.
teacher and student. Yeah.
So I think the hope is obviously that these detectors become amazing.
Sure.
And that teachers hopefully could use them effectively someday. Because it seems so impossible. I don't know.
Yes,
it's
and maybe we could change education. And right, but that's helpful. But right, but like I've changed assessments that I do. My students are they write a memoir, they write a poem and they analyze their own poem. They don't want to put their poem in AI. So there are ways around even around that. That we really, that's that flip to blooms piece we really need to come to together. And yes, I mean, ideally, wouldn't it be great if we had something that could just tell us?
I just want to second that I think AI detectors just fundamentally aren't they misunderstand how it works. And I've seen so many destructive things among college students, but that wasn't. But I do think disclosure is important. Mm-hmm. So are we recommending we want students to disclose, but are we also recommending that, if you're using it for a recommendation letter or you're using it for your grading process, that it's a two-way, that everybody's disclosing in terms of building that trust, that we're all disclosing whatever.
That's a great question. Right now, the recommendation for things like recommendation letters that you are disclosing, it's fuzzy at best.
I don't mean if you use Grammarly, but if you're
right now there's no requirement for that. So that is on somebody to disclose or not. I suspect, this is my guess, is Common App is going to start asking for did you use AI to generate this letter? Did you use AI to generate your college essay, right? I think we're headed in that direction. When I work with my own students, they disclose every time. We just make it really transparent about our use. And they not only disclose, but they reflect on what went well, what didn't go well, what would you do differently next time, would you ever touch this tool again, why or why not, sort of thing. If you happened to catch it in my presentation, when I generate images with AI, I always label them because not that you would have thought those were real images, but you wouldn't, but I want to be in the habit of showing people that we are going to be transparent about that. Or if I had Notebook LM make a slide, I left that watermark on that said Notebook LM so that you can see that is part of my process. So there are times where we would and times where you don't have to as a professional. With students, we're revising the academic integrity policy right now where we will be talking about disclosing, citing.
Right, I would just hope if someone's writing a recommendation letter with AI, I think it's responsible to disclose that too.
Yeah, sure. I don't disagree.
Yeah.
One of the other groups of people in this learning process is parents. Because if you're concerned about, as we should be, about kids with relationships with AI entities, if parents don't understand and if parents aren't engaged in trying to deal with that, then I think we're going to have a lot of trouble. So at what point would you envision broadening the list of people who you're bringing into the education?
That is on our, that is in our list of questions of things that we are starting to think about after April 3rd.
Okay. Good.
Thank you for the question.
So as we're thinking about AI, this has me thinking about cybersecurity, and there's a lot of discussion about AI and bad actors. And I don't think I have a good understanding if we're doing any cybersecurity related curriculum or if faculty are receiving cybersecurity training. I'd be curious to learn about that maybe in the future.
We're currently in the state have KnowBefore, which is a training module setting for all employees and staff that they have to. They actually get an email telling them that they made a mistake, a phishing mistake, that they have to take a smaller course. We can add more different sort of Vector Solutions is another service that we have, which all employees have to fill out every year. We can always add more modules to that, specifically for AI, because right now it's just basically for phishing and spam and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's doable.
I just want to say thank you. I think it's really interesting work, and you're clearly being so thorough and letting your fear guide you, which is good. I think people who get overconfident about AI, it can be, it's the Wild West. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Reach out anytime if you have questions.
Okay, that brings us to the superintendent report.
So I'd like to start with our district promise, which is interrupting educational inequities and creating schools in which every child and staff member thrives one conversation at a time. I think our presentation just now sort of speaks to that educational promise. Our April student enrollment update with some changes at the high school and changes at our elementary schools were at the same number we were back in March at 1325. This has grown as we have come towards the end of the year based on some retirements. You'll see that later on, and some shuffling. So in regular ed, we have kindergarten at Trenton, we have GT, math and MPSS at Tremont, and bookkeeper at Connors Emerson. So you see this list of regular ed folks, specials, 40% librarian at Tremont, guidance counselors at both Pematic and Trenton. And then over in support staff, bus drivers at MDIRSS, at Pematic, and at Tremont. So I'm looking forward to my meeting with SEER, which had to be changed from last Friday to Monday when we returned to break. And in terms of our recent hires, we hired an occupational therapist. Yay, Caitlin Bagley, currently working as a pediatric occupational therapist with Maine Health at Waldo County. And she has a passion for helping children build the skills they need to be successful and participate fully in school and everyday life. Highlights, the civil rights team at the high school went to the Sacred Schools Conference at Colby, along with Saga and Beam. They also, as you heard, show choir won gold for the Illuminary. Longfellow School, students did their student-led conferences reflecting on what they're learning and their habits of work. I was able to watch a couple of those when I was out there on Friday. And students are working on creating their own countries and cultures, learning how geography of place impacts food, work, and traditions. Connors Emerson, they, 7th graders, went to Volta for team building, and the 3rd through 8th graders participated in an assembly. That was quite interesting. It covered show choirs, a bit of the jazz band, and then a student-generated documentary on women's sports. And a former Tiger, Dakota Dion, returned to sing some original songs that he's written and some student-selected favorites. At Trenton, the K2 team will be holding family math night on April 16th. And the Trenton and Connors Emerson Show Choir put on a fabulous performance of Barbie at the state festival. Pematik, Mount Desert, Tremont Show Choir earned a gold rating for their performance of Lion King. And Mrs. Schroeder's 5th grade class is hatching salmon and chicken eggs and working on tracking development and keeping an eye on humidity and temperature. Swans Island Spirit Week is this week, and with everything from Monday being Pajama Day to Friday Dress Like a Student, Dress Like a Teacher Day. Mount Desert Elementary 6th graders visited the Bar Harbor Food Pantry and learned about food insecurity and the pantry's mission. And the 8th grade presented to the board on their class trip for this coming year, where they're going to Great Wolf Lodge, Water Park, Boston Red Sox game, and Canobie Lake Park in New Hampshire. And at Tremont, Arts Week is underway. For the next 2 weeks, artists will be exploring puppetry, poetry, and Joe prints with students. And spring, and this is for all of our schools, the spring main 3-year assessments have begun at all of our schools. Budgets, the big news is we did get our increase to insurance, and it came in at 11.42%, so 1.42% above. And for the entire district, that totaled $88,431. Each school is a little bit different depending on who is in those, and I'll be sharing individual numbers when I come to individual board meetings. And principal will be looking at covering that with the changes and plans that occur and staffing changes, and we should be able to cover the cost of that through all of our budgets in that way. MDIRSS updates. Drummond Woodsum is doing a presentation, and principals will be attending, dealing with dangerous behavior from an employment perspective, and addressing questions about what constitutes dangerous behavior and how schools and employees and support staff by providing strategies to address some common challenges with implementing this law. So I also linked the dangerous behavior process guide here, which allow you to see, how we sort of define it, and then what are the steps that principals and association reps are doing as they're identifying behaviors and how they're working that through. And the superintendent agreement process, though that came out, there was a law last session that they tried to clarify it, that didn't work. So the Superintendent Association and the state board worked together to help clarify the process on creating a standard form, requiring more upfront sharing from parents and then from principals. And so it's be a little bit more of a hefty lift, but it's to help so that you get less of it elevated to the Maine State Board of Education. And so I'm starting to work on those as I get those as they come through. Staff spotlight, focusing on retired teachers. We've had a lot. Angie Bouchard, who was a library tech at Connors Emerson, she was there for 33 years. Leslyn Shea, sort of the school mom for Connors Emerson. She has been there for 11 years. Julie Fulton Kelly has been there for 26 years. Tom Brennan, a bus driver in Tremont, for 22 years. And Linda Campbell for 27 years, a long time to be greeting students in the morning and taking them to trips and field trips all over the island. Linda has a kind heart and treated students with respect, and they reciprocated. Reorganization. We have a Wednesday coming up, a meeting on Wednesday, May 11th, and we're looking at presenting a modified version of how the RSU will pay for future large projects, which involves schools that have large debt right now and how we might be able to manage that. and subcommittee is meeting tomorrow to discuss a model, and hopefully that's something that will bear some fruit, and then we'll share that at May meeting and come back and share that. We also made the change to voting in June. I mean, from the vote in June to the November 4th vote. And so as soon as we nail down this portion, I'll start setting some community meetings that will be really listening sessions for the community to hear what this one change might mean, and then have them ask questions on the reorganization as we move forward.
Also, it's, and then I'll it is so important, like, be in touch with us and share your feedback, because now is the time. Like, let's not wait until it's like, right before the November vote and then whatever. Like, it is all of our responsibility to, like, know what's going on, to ask questions if you have the questions, if you have concerns, whatever. Like, however, like, email, phone myself or another RPC board member or Mike, like, please reach out and, like, I mean, we will try, like, this is us soliciting questions right now, so now's the moment. Like, if you have those questions, please, or reservations or anything, please ask them. But also, please, if you prefer a different format, phone, come take a walk with any of us, whatever works for you to share your concerns, because the goal here is to have a really vital conversation. So, yeah, sorry, Marie, did you have a question?
I was trying to put it in my calendar. I want to let you know that's not the right date. Wednesday is either the 13th or is it the Monday the 13th or is it Wednesday?
It's Wednesday the 13th.
Okay. So I was trying to show up, but my calendar was telling me that was not the right date. Okay, Wednesday the 13th.
I'll change that. And then finally, some legislative updates. The Essential Programs and Services, LD 226, is on its way to passage. And what that will do that's the program model for how the state supports schools. And the three priorities were really aligning with labor realities. And so it adjusts the formula to reflect Maine's current cost of living and labor market. Prioritizing fairness and income. So currently, 2 districts with identical needs can receive vastly different subsidies based solely on property values. And this fixes this by incorporating community income into the formula rather than inflated property assessments. And then targeting resources where they're needed. And so the bill increases funding for transportation and economically disadvantaged students, directing the state aid to populations that require the most support. For MDIRSS, there's no change to the majority of our schools other than Trenton, because of its economically disadvantaged, would receive $59,000 more in their state subsidy. Swans would receive $3,000 more. Cranberry would receive $1,445 more. Every other of our schools are stay where we are. The bell-to-bell cell phone ban, this was not a legislative bill, however, it was in the supplemental budget, and it's going to pass, or has passed. And school boards will have until August 1st to adopt and implement a policy prohibiting the use of cell phones and wearable devices in schools. Monies will be available to aid schools in implementing this policy. I had asked at the superintendent's agreement if there was any way around this, and they said no. And so we will be working on that ban, unfortunately. And I just added school construction because this is a big thing. They are creating a more robust program for renovating schools, increasing debt service capacity, so allowing the state to provide a little more of that service for construction bonds, and creating an accelerator program. This fast tracks funding for urgent repairs like like roofs and things like that, that it might not cost, $1 million or $3 million, but it might be 300,000 or something, but allowing those kind of projects to be able to move forward so that schools stay safe. And that's my report.
Are there questions for Marie?
Can you link that report?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Because there's things you want us to look at, but we
Yeah,
can get
yeah.
okay. And then so August 1st is really soon, and I know that we have, like, the faculty and everybody's been working on, we have a policy. Do you anticipate that means, like, how are you walking back to the deadline from that, for the board to have a look at it, I guess? Have you got through that?
Well, we have, I will bring this up at the policy meeting and take a look at the version of a policy that was shared with us and start dissecting that. And then I'll be speaking with Matt, because this is all the high school, the elementary schools are all set. And so then I'll be chatting with Matt on how we want to approach this with students and with faculty members at the high school.
So you anticipate you'll go to you'll do that, you'll go to the policy committee before or after that, and then it'll come to the board, but, because if we don't usually meet in July, does it need to be passed by the board is what I'm getting at before August?
It does.
Right,
I think if we meet the second week of July, I think we're pretty good. If we have to okay it then.
Hopefully there will be a first reading anyway by June.
Yes, by June.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of wondering what the time frame is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other questions? Going once, twice, okay. Okay, that brings us to directors of teaching and learning.
My report was predominantly, can I hit the screen?
Yep.
The presentation. But I did want to just share one more item, because in the April note, you saw we got feedback on the PD day that we had done, and I know that there was a lot of questions about whether or not that was going to hit home with a lot of folks, and hopefully you noticed that it did. So how do we do it all? I guess that's what I want to talk to you about, because Kate said this is not one and done, and most of our PD is not one and done. And we're cooking it. This is just looking under the hood here. You'll see a lot of math woven within here. You'll see a lot of AI tech tools helping to do the math stuff that we've actually been training on. So we're gonna keep those threads going. And this is how we do it. We just plot out our time slots, we figure out what our priorities are, and then we build from there. And we're even building into January. So this is how we try to do it all. And just like all things, we have constraints, but we line up with our priorities. So I guess I wanted to assure you that we're continuing to do good with math. Our new governance structure that we're piloting with our curriculum review cycle is going to prioritize math as our first subject. We are contracting externally with someone who is experienced in this specific area to make sure we get it done right. We're going to hopefully use that as a prototype to replicate with other subjects. And then we're going to continue with the AI work, our literacy work, and our common study work. So, any questions for me?
Okay, thank you, Julie. Okay, this brings us to our discussion items, which are all these first readings of policies. As a reminder, from you all the way that policies work is you have them now, and then you have the month to make comments or thoughts, and then we'll bring them back usually the next meeting for a second reading and a vote. Are there comments you want to make on any of these policies?
I had a question on the expense reimbursement. We in the past had it leveled where breakfast was no more than $20, lunch $25, dinner $40, which gives a total of $85. So originally set that in there as a total daily reimbursement amount, and was wondering if the board felt it was better to sort of break them out by breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or just give them the $85 if they don't have lunch and dinner and they go out and have a fancy dinner. That's fine, or that's what I was. Yep.
I think this day and age, $85 is like, you have to be really mindful anyway, so to have the flexibility just to have it as a grand total, that would be my vote.
I agree too. We don't need a micromanage. It's not a big, no one's getting a fancy dinner or dinner or whatever, so, yeah.
So I guess I just have a question about that. If you're at a conference and they provide breakfast and lunch at the conference, does that mean you go and can spend $85 at dinner anyway?
This is up to.
Yes, it says.
Because that's,
yes.
I don't know about that.
It
That's
says
why
up to, I think you would submit your receipts for whatever meal you would go out for, right?
Right. But what she's saying is $85 for just dinner is a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the point of why I was asking.
Yes, I think that seems a bit large under the circumstances, but I know things are more, I know things are much more expensive. It's not that. I'm not doing that, but
Would it be
just
fair to
simply
say,
aggregating it, especially if you're just getting the meals provided during the day. If you were like skipping lunch that you needed to provide on your own, that's maybe a different thing. But
would it be better to say up to $85 and have a cap for a single meal, since they are submitting the receipts?
yeah, which gets us back to what we originally had. I'm not quite sure how to structure it. But if you're just doing that. But, and I may be the only person who thinks that way. That's fine.
I wonder why we don't use the federal per diem rates, just refer to the federal government's process.
They're very stringent.
Yeah.
We use it for mileage, and that's it.
The nice thing about the federal per diem, though, it does vary based on location, geographic location, so it does adjust for some of those geographic variations.
My only concern is that I worry about the amount of work that we're creating for the person who's got to, like, are we offsetting any financial savings we have? Because then Nancy or someone's gotta be, I mean, not necessarily Nancy, but some person's gotta be then
Validating.
seeing if this receipt matched up to this location, to this, whatever. I mean, do we have a ton of, is this a huge expense, like?
Not necessarily, no, I mean, it's not a huge expense.
You could just say not to exceed $85 per diem or $50 on any meal, and that would cover it.
Does that work? Does that satisfy your?
Thank you.
And I think the tip is after that, right?
That was
Because it's
my
saying
question.
gratuities will be limited to 20%, so I would think
Yes.
the tip is on top of the 50 or 85.
When it says meals included in registration fees are not exempt from this provision. What does that mean?
So if your conference has meals included, it's always an itemized line item for how much it costs, so you'd have to submit that. And if it's a really fancy conference, your per diem's not gonna cover it.
Right.
I think one of the things that I'm looking for more information on is the what pre-approval looks like. For one, who does the pre-approval? What's required for pre-approval? What are the how are the parameters within this reimbursement reflected in that pre-approval, for instance, I'm gonna do this conference, I'm gonna go to this place, it's gonna cost me, this much, getting pre-approval for that. What does that look like? And that's, I have a part two questions.
Yeah.
So what's the threshold for that requires approval, certain costs, it's cost me $5,000, it's gonna cost me $200, what does that look like? Where are those embedded in the policy?
Well, there's, it's not in, necessarily in this policy, but usually with conferences, a principal will look out ahead and say, okay, depending on, we haven't gone to a middle level conference, so then you'll budget that amount, and then you, and if it's at that level, that's done with the principal. If it's an individual conference, let's say you're going to a state of Maine conference somewhere that the state of Maine is holding, you go on to the form, you fill it out, and you put in what the amount is, and you have a conversation with the principal. Is that something she can support through professional development or not? It's run by the principals in their process of as they do budget, as they do for leave requests and all that. It's all filled out in that process.
What is the physical paperwork attached to that procedure of approval?
Like paperwork, well.
I mean, do you literally just say, you just
well, then
verbalize it? I'm just, because it talks about having pre-approval, and there are certain things that require approval. Is it just a verbal approval? That's what I'm kind of getting at.
Yeah, it's a verbal approval.
Okay, so if you were going to go to a conference in California, you could just say, I want to go to a conference in California, and it's going to be 5 days, and I'm going to stay in a hotel. Can I go? You wouldn't say, like, here's my budget?
Oh, well, yeah, you would.
Okay.
The steps would be, well, you have to see, is it something that that has been planned before? Because, usually if you're going to be going to California, that means that you're putting monies into it. So you probably would have had to address that with, your board members and saying, oh, we're doing this special thing because of some specific content that we're trying to get, or there's some learning there that we need to go and evaluate. So Cranberry Island, they sent 2 teachers to Colorado for some training on I'm forgetting, it's for place-based learning that was pretty interesting. They had budgeted that for those teachers to go to that conference. And so it wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. They had budgeted last year, and so that's how that worked out.
So somebody wrote a budget and said, I want to go to this conference, and so it was written down somewhere, and
Yeah.
somebody said, I want to do this. And then the principal said, yes, it's a good idea, and it goes to the board. And is that normally how it's done?
Can I add?
Yes.
Because there's different places where you would get funded for conferences that you have oversight of. I fund a lot of conferences, but it's through budgets that I pass through state approval in accordance with our district plan that we submit. So if something lines up to support our initiatives, then I can fund it. So conferences come, and then there's grants, separate grants outside of everything that a committee will decide whether or not they're going to support it. And that's usually a cross-section of, community members and admin and so forth. So there's different funding spaces where this happens.
Does that answer your question?
Enough.
But were you asking, should there be a paper trail?
Yeah, I'm asking if there should be a paper trail, and I'm asking if
there's a threshold.
I'm asking how, I'm just have a business person point of view here, like, you want to fill out a thing, like, I think it's going to be cost me $200 a night, and I think it's going to be $12 in tolls, and it might be 5 nights at $82 or whatever we're doing for the per diem, and I think it might be, and it's going to cost $500 for the conference, and you have like a plan, and you say like, do you think I can do this? And then someone says yes, and then there's that paper there that says that, and then those match up with like your receipts. There's like a,
Yeah, there's a Google form that asks all those questions, and that's what folks fill out. And there's no,
So there is paper.
There's-
That's what else on
it's a,
that
it's
is
a
on my
Google, it's a Google form.
Google form,
And, you know, when I said, you know, boards approve the budget for conferences, they don't approve budgets for, you know, for every conference, individual conferences. You know, you might have a conversation when your principal brings a budget that we want to do this large thing, and that's why it's higher this year than it was that year. But then it's up to the principal to, you know, make that call.
I'm still stuck on the per diem thing. AI tells me, and I don't know if it's true, that if it's above the federal per diem rate, it's taxable income. Do we know if that's true? I don't know.
I don't know.
I did find an IRS FAQ that said that's the case.
It could also tell you to eat rocks.
It might be
So this will come back with these questions delved into. Are there other questions on this policy?
I guess just related to the federal, that idea is like, do the grants that we get or like state funding that we might have for conferences want us to use, like, do they reimburse us according to certain things for any of that? So therefore, if our policy is kind of outside that, we're messing up the ease by which a state grant funds the full cost, including the meals, you know?
I have rules that I have to, abide by, and it's based on our needs assessment, and that's also in alignment with federal funding, so.
Cause I
Yeah,
heard.
if you put a cap, and
Yeah.
it's not a cap on me if the state approves it, yes. I
Right,
see.
right. I heard the thing about like not wanting to be too cumbersome, right? Except for like if there is some elegance because we're gonna be submitting to other processes that use this system, then maybe that's just, it becomes less cumbersome.
Yeah, I think what's challenging here is that there isn't one stream, obviously one stream. So some grants are coming, some conferences are, there's many different mechanisms by which conferences are occurring, and this is seeking to create an umbrella, but it's not uniform. Is that accurate? Yes.
And I'll just add one other thought. I like where we started about not micromanaging and like we oversee the budget. You know, each of our schools has a line for this, and so that's like another opportunity without having to like nitpick about the exact amount for lunch. Or so if that can work with your processes, I'm in favor of sticking where we started.
Yeah. I agree, because if there's a particular restrictive part to something that Julie's doing, then she's gonna follow that more restrictive piece, right? But if there's somehow, yeah, exactly. Other questions or comments? So you'll bring this back to us, having contemplated these topics. Okay. Are there questions on earned paid leave or earned paid leave administrative procedure?
Is this in any way related to the recent legislation from last year where we're now paying into the family leave, right?
No. And this doesn't necessarily impact any employees because we're in a CBA and so it runs concurrently. So, but we're supposed to have it in our books.
Okay, are there, oh, sorry.
I'm so confused then, because I thought that's what this was. So this doesn't apply to, tell me more. I'm confused.
It's like
Who
in a
does this apply
required
to?
suite of policies.
So like the fact that our teachers and, have a contract that provides them with leave, this doesn't apply to them because we have that, or is there something else?
It doesn't apply to them because we have it, but we had some employees that don't fall under a collective bargaining agreement, and we would use this process if need be.
Okay, and so, but the folks that do not fall under the agreement do have contracts that give them the ability to work, so is this on top of that?
No. It runs concurrently. So if you have if your contract says you have 16 sick days, 5 personal days, you get those right up front. Where this is earned paid leave, it takes I forget what the
1 hour for
the approval. Yeah.
So is it additional earned paid leave that you would get if you're not?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, I'll stop asking it, I guess, I'm sorry.
This is probably a minimum daily requirement, right? This like, if we don't have at least this, you have to provide at
You have
least
to
this.
provide, yes, yes.
Okay, JICA and its associated subheadings. Student dress, which has taken a long time coming. Are there any comments or questions on that?
I'm commenting on all as a slate.
Yes. I mean,
Well, on just the JICA, which is that first one is just an explanation of sort of the importance of student dress and some of that, and then there are the separate high school and the elementary versions, which are procedures.
So are we able to comment on the procedures?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I have a question of a procedure for elementary school dress code guidelines. I really appreciate the wording of all of this. I think it's really inclusive and great. Just to, talk about bra straps in a school board meeting. I don't love the inclusion in the elementary school guidelines about no visible like it says specifically in the high school guideline. I'm blushing in a school board meeting. I'm 32 years old. Cool. Yeah. Well, yeah. I just think I would love.
Where does it refer to?
It's so in the high school dress code. It says like straps. This is specifically like this does not include straps and undergarment. I would love to see that.
But you're talking about the elementary school one?
I know what you're saying.
You
So
know what I'm saying?
you're saying that because it says visible underwear, but we don't want anyone getting dress coded for a bra strap that shows at the elementary school because it goes K through 8, right? Yes. So I agree. Yes, I understand.
I'm just wondering if we could include that in both.
Yeah, just move that out, park that out. Yeah.
Just kind of, I agree about that because that's the biggest thing I hear about.
And the whole point of rejiggering all this and doing it as an AOS policy was to move away from that kind of selective, body maturity based enforcement and things like that. So, is that possible? Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Thoughts? Okay.
Actually, can I ask one
Yes.
more thing? Can someone just speak to the other considerations about dressing for weather and the discussion that happened at the policy committee? This is the highlighted part in the bottom of is that new language?
Yes. So I think to walk back through the process, an original thought was like, we'll just use the high school one for everyone, but there was quite a bit of concern, I think, among and Mike was at more of these meetings and he can jump in, but among elementary principals that there were additional concerns that pertained to elementary students, such as we do want to ensure that because the high school one focuses a lot, which I think in spirit we support on sort of like personal bodily autonomy and dressing for what feels comfortable. So I think the principals were feeling like there's a need that regardless of what a student feels about bodily autonomy, they need to have snow boots in winter and coats in winter and stuff like that. That's what this is about.
Yep.
Is it?
Yeah, and I guess my comment is just reading. I mean, I guess this is procedures, but it's sort of a statement. Like parents should do this, and it just reads. I really appreciated the language about how clear it was above about students may wear this, and you could read and understand it, and just I think I understand the sentiment behind that last piece, but when I read it, I'm like, how does this help us discern? Or how do you follow it when it's a statement about what parents should take into consideration?
Yeah.
So if we just had the last two sentences?
Yeah, I mean the last
students must wear waterproof footwear and warm coats in cold and wet and cold weather. Then it would match the specificity.
Yeah.
Is that what?
Yeah, or maybe it's good because this is our first crack of it and we get it in there, and by the next time we're revising it, the language improves. I feel like the language above has improved. It's probably a tricky thing to get to say, right? I understand the sentiment, but it doesn't read like a policy or a procedure.
Yeah.
It reads more like a communication to parents.
Right. Which could be said at a different time, but probably doesn't, reform that to more of a.
This seems really dumb to have to point out, but it says students must wear shirt bottom shoes. What if they wear a dress?
A shirt and a bottom.
I mean, it says students must wear shirt, bottom, shoes.
Well, I would think a dress covers, it says pants, shorts, or a skirt. I mean, a dress is a shirt and a skirt.
Where does it say pants?
After bottom, pants, shorts.
Not in the high school one, it doesn't. It just says shirt, bottom, shoes.
Well, I guess that pants, shorts, skirt, parentheses could be moved over to the high school. I feel like that's.
You know high school kids though, if they can argue it, they're gonna argue it, and, you know.
What if it said top, bottom shoes?
It's still two pieces, as opposed to a dress, which is one piece.
Students must cover top, bottom, feet.
Heads and shoulders.
Right?
Yeah.
I just have one more question after reading and talking about the outdoor wear. Do we want to phrase it in some way so that parents who need to are invited to communicate with the principal or whatever if they can't provide those things?
So those invitations go out all the time, and I don't think a policy is in place,
They go out
because I don't
way
think a
too
person who's lacking a code is like, let me dig in the policy, like, yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Did someone have a hand up?
It was me, but I'm gonna hold it.
Go for it.
Well, I was just thinking, I do think like if it's a policy or then are we taking this on as a school to ensure that our kids are dressed appropriately for the weather? And we're like looking to the parents first for that, but we're basically saying like, you just seems like you can't have a policy that's parents should. It seems like we need to have a statement about like how we're gonna equip kids to be outside in all weather.
Kids must wear snow pants in snow or whatever.
Yeah, and like if it's not happening from home, it's happening some other way. Is that like, can we say that? I don't know if that's reasonable as the schools, but.
And that is how it functions.
Yes.
I mean,
So
we'll
to me
fix
that,
that.
the whole statement about the cold weather, because I have a 9-year-old boy that thinks he doesn't need a jacket, but also like from the school's perspective, they're under their care and they need to keep them safe and prevent them from having hypothermia. So I think we can, if we agree we will trust them to make that decision on those days. And I see what you're saying in terms of like, I think we are prepared, and I think if there is a child that needs it, but I think it would be, it's a slippery slope to get into the like, can every parent meet this need? Like, you're going to public school, you're sending your kids to public school. If you, like Jessica said, if you have a need, like, we're there, you will absolutely be helped. But we also have to have, I feel like, some boundaries.
I don't think the policy is the place to resolve that issue. I think Mike's gonna fix this up where it'll just say waterproofing, taking out the first sentence about parents taking into consideration, and then reformatting it a little bit. Carrie, would your problem be addressed if we just added the parentheses that are in the elementary one to say what a skirt or bottom or top is?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. It seems silly, I know, but it just is something for a kid to argue about, so.
Just a question, once this is passed, will it be incorporated into like the student handbooks?
Yes.
Okay, because that's really where we do the other thing, which is all this other stuff. Like here, we're just trying to make it so that we don't have a punitive dress code, which is what we had for a really long time, that staff couldn't like even work with because it was really punitive. So we're getting rid of that with this, and then in the handbook and in communication with parents, we do all this other stuff where we're like, we have jackets for you, and you know, you can wear a dress, just don't worry, you know, so separating it out like that.
Yes.
Once this is done and duplicating it will be, cover all the bases, I think.
There's, was there any discussion about pajamas?
Pajamas are allowed.
Oh.
Students may wear, I believe it says in here somewhere, doesn't it?
Pajamas or sweatpants.
Yeah.
May wear.
I mean, I want to read. I think the bottom line is like, as a school board and and the policy committee's feelings, like, our job isn't to parents can have a wide variety. Like, I want my kid in a button down, or I want my kid in, I don't care what they wear, or whatever. Like, our job is, as a school board and as a school, isn't to sort of lay out like what's professional. Like, the dress code isn't the place to like educate people about dress for the workplace or something like that. It's about like creating a tone of like, we want people in school and safe and whatever. And then there's other venues to work on things like what you wear to a job or whatever. Just the dress code isn't the place to have that happen, because there's too many variables of different values about that kind of stuff that isn't really, and administrators don't want to be spending their time like litigating that. Okay, any other questions? Okay, this will return to the next, as an action item at the next meeting. Okay, first readings and revisions on communicable diseases and administration of medication. Students, are there comments or questions on either of those policies? Gail?
We had a discussion at the last meeting about sunscreen. Which doesn't seem that controversial, except that the way we're leaving the policy at this point, if a parent says that an elementary school student can apply their own sunscreen, then they can put sunscreen on. And I raised the question of whether or not, first of all, you need kids going out to recess putting on sunscreen, but secondly, if you've got second or third graders who I mean, there's no limits or guardrails on that, and sunscreen can make a mess, quite frankly. And do we really? I mean, I totally get it for like the high school. I mean, we had that discussion about kids out doing track and stuff like that. But for really younger kids, unless it's a field trip or something like that, is there a need for something?
They usually would, when they do hikes and if they're out all day, they definitely have to wear sunscreen.
Yeah. I would think there are kids who are super sensitive to sunlight. They could be on medication that, like if they're on certain antibiotics, they have to wear sunscreen.
Sure, no, that's absolutely true. But this is the way it's written. It's like anybody who, for any reason, if their parent says they can slide on sunscreen in second grade, they can do it.
Yeah, but doesn't that seem kind of like a thing that the teacher would just take care of? Like, they also use markers, and they're,
But teachers aren't allowed to do the application.
Oh, right.
Unless
there's no expectation for them to do it, but a teacher
might help.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's no right way to do it, but I
feel that's too granular for the policy.
Yeah.
So if they need procedural changes or something, then they would work up if that becomes an issue. But we can talk about it.
That's fine.
It seems like a teacher input would be helpful. Not that I'm aware of, but it seems like teacher input would be helpful.
Why, this is all added section, right? The sunscreen section?
Yes, it was from the, with the revision of the policy and the need for, I guess, I don't want to say need for, but the increasing amounts of skin cancer and all that, it was added, and the nurses asked for it to be in there as well.
So, but are we restricting like, I'm just thinking about my 8th grader buys sunscreen and carries sunscreen, but now this has to have written permission from me for them to do that.
do we mean to be doing that? Or I'm surprised that is the intent of adding this to be more controlled about it or to be supporting sunscreen use? Not clear.
We skipped it.
Item 2, yeah.
I'm not seeing.
It's under item 2 under L, sunscreen, pre-K to 8
all
students.
You must have written
I see
permission
for
from their
pre-K.
parent.
Right. Okay.
Does sunscreen go in you know how when you fill out the thing in the beginning of the year, and it says, they take Benadryl or cough drops or whatever,
Yes.
can sunscreen just go under
That's
that?
what I'm
think
just
it's
saying,
under that.
just
Yeah.
make the box, that's what
Yeah.
we're
The box.
saying,
Okay.
make the box to check, and then that's written permission.
Yeah, and this bullet too.
But I hear what you were saying, I don't think it's necessary, because let's say you forgot to fill it out or whatever, and then Rita's going on a field trip, you want her to be able to take her sunscreen and go, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, or is there a problem that first graders are administering their own sunscreen without? Like, is this a problem that we need to solve for? Like, or
Can you abuse?
right,
Can you abuse sunscreen?
I will say,
Staff weed, I love it.
as a parent of a first grader, if he's gonna make a mess, I have to clean it
True.
up, because it's gonna get all over his clothes.
Yep.
The tube's gonna be empty, I have to go buy more, like, it behooves me to make sure I train him to do it correctly.
Right.
Instead of relying on the teacher to do it.
Okay, we'll bring this up in the next policy. That's great application. Okay. We will return with some details on sunscreen ironed out for carrying out. Action items, selection of members for teacher negotiating team, that we're in year 2, next year is year 3 of the contract, and we're trying to get going so that we can be ahead of budget season, because it's much easier if we get going on our negotiation in time to get ahead of the budget curve. Are there volunteers? We would be hoping to pursue
One from each board.
yes.
I'm not volunteering, but I did suggest that since our local board has not discussed it at all, that it ought to be on our agenda for our next meeting, and we ought to at least have that discussion about who should be doing it.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
Comprehensive plan, enough for him.
What?
Very good, very good.
I'm the first volunteer.
So we'll
Yeah.
put it on.
It's a committee agenda.
Yeah. But if you want to do it, please be in touch. Yeah. And I think that, the intent is to pursue a similar interest-based, that's the hope. So that we would be hopefully having a smooth process today.
Oh, I should put on my glasses.
Oh, but
I am curious though if we've gotten anywhere with the committee for the middle school conversation.
we have not, but let's put that onto future agenda items, right?
Yeah. I think she just volunteered. Do you want to?
For middle school or for negotiation?
All of it.
Yeah.
We'll
I don't
put
have
it,
anything else to do.
we'll put that on to the next, for future agenda, for May.
Okay, thank you.
So it sounds like we're discussing this at each,
Yes.
we're assembling that way, okay, very
That
good.
makes sense.
Okay, is there additional public comment? Okay, other business? Any other business? Okay, future agenda items, we'll have middle school committee update, transportation update, which
Gifted
hopefully.
and talented presentation.
Okay. Marie?
Cell phone policy.
Cell phone policy update, yes. Other items? If you think of any items, email or call, let me know. Next meeting will be Monday, May 2026, probably at 6, but we'll wait your updates and everything else. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you.